You are entering the bonus stage, a podcast produced in association with OceanOfBees.com, with your host Marauder
and Phoenix 923,
a podcast for all gamers,
console and PC alike.
Welcome to Bonus Stage.
Hello and welcome to Bonus Stage, a podcast produced in association with OceanOfBees.com. As always, I am your host Marauder.
And I'm Phoenix 923.
And I am Cheapy. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was actually going to introduce you, but...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Butt right in.
Whoops. Yes, I'll make myself nice and comfortable here. Hope you don't mind.
That rude voice on the other end of the Skype call is Cheapy D from OceanOfBees.com. How's it going, Cheapy?
I am doing pretty good.
Cool, cool. And, like I just mentioned, you're from OceanOfBees.com. You have a show on there. What exactly is your show about, for those of people who don't
My
know?
show is about playing games for cheap. I have a nice thing that I do where I don't go above $20 for a price. Brand new. So it's not like I get old games and then just review them like that. No, it's $20 out of the gate.
So a lot of stuff on, like, Steam, I assume?
Yes. Lots of stuff on Steam.
Well, it is primarily a PC-based review show.
Yes. If I ever had the money to actually do a lot of the XBLA stuff and the PlayStation Market stuff, I would do that. But I have the PC right now, so that's what I'm doing for the time being.
Right. No need to go out and spend $200, $300 on a console.
Precisely.
Right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, just, so how did you get involved with OceanOfBees.com?
Well, I had been making reviews, and I had just been, kind of farting around, wasting my time. At the time, I was first hooked up with a website called Cheapy8Gaming.com, which really wasn't going anywhere because it was some other guy. And as I was going through, there was a gentleman who contacted me over YouTube that I was like, hey, we like your show. It was interesting. Would you be interested in working with us? And at first I was like, okay. The first time this happened didn't end so well for me. But it's worked out pretty well. I mean, it was Jab, a.k.a. the inspector, who first contacted me. And from there, it's kind of been, well, it's been interesting.
Well, yeah, he seems to be because I was contacted by him as well, and it seems to be he's
You're
in
welcome.
charge of recruiting.
Yeah. Between him and Sammy Kablam, it'd be the two of them, but mostly it is, yes, Jab.
Yeah, thanks, Phoenix. Yeah, he's the one who's like, check out this guy. He has this show where he reviews stuff like an old English gentleman. And, yeah, within that, 24 hours from subbing him, I was on the Ocean of Bees site. It was kind of really weird.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happens.
He's like, let's put stuff up now. Okay, here, have my videos. I don't care. I'm not getting any exposure on YouTube, so this can't hurt.
Yeah, I was getting zero to well, maybe 2 in terms of that. So it's very similar.
YouTube's kind of weird because if you look at the videos, at least my videos, the ones that have the fewest views are the ones I put the most work into, and then the ones that have the hundreds upon thousands of views, are the ones that I just shot off the cuff.
That's kind of how it was with me. My most popular video has to do with a game that I did, and it was my first negative review because I didn't really like the game, and that has heads and tails more views than most of my other videos.
Yeah.
So apparently, if you want to be popular on YouTube, be an asshole.
Yeah, because there's not enough people on YouTube reviewing bad games.
Well, it's either be an asshole or play Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah, there's that too. Or be an asshole while playing Call of Duty.
And it's funny because the only person that I like watching playing Call of Duty is not an asshole at all. So apparently I'm special like that.
Yeah, I like the guy who plays with soundboards. He plays Call of Duty while using soundboards for various characters from movies and TV shows, and he matches up snippets of the show perfectly with what's going on. It's absolutely hilarious. Well, anyway, so you have in your show, you have like a stuffed rhinoceros, or what is that?
It's a protoceratops.
Okay.
It is a dinosaur.
Okay. Trying to make me seem all stupid. I know what a protozoan dinosaur is. It's like a rhinoceros, right?
Yeah, and rhinoceros, they live in the ocean, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure they did at some point. I'm sure there's science out there I can pay for to back me up.
So yes, Bix, which was I don't even remember how I got him, but I've had him since I was about 8.
Okay.
It was when this series of picture books called Dinotopia came out, okay. and I apparently this one was on sale, and I got this one because there's no other way for me to have gotten it.
Mm-hmm. So like, you think it like came with a videotape or something,
or a book?
Or a book.
Except I can't find the book.
That is so weird.
Yes.
I like how you lose shit. Like when you were, between the ages of like 10 and 15, just half of your stuff just disappears.
Yep.
It's incredible. I'm surprised I still have any of my games from when I was a kid, because it's like all my friends lost theirs, or their moms sold it in a garage sale.
I kept a pretty tight hold on my games. I never really took care of any of the boxes or manuals, but the actual carts and stuff I did. Though now I'm kind of regretting it. I took
pretty good care of the manuals. I still have the manuals for whatever games I had, because I always like to look through them and read them personally.
We had this little plastic basket. It was like a grocery basket. I have no idea where it came from, but we just kind of threw the game manuals in that basket, and we still have that basket, and there's quite a few manuals still in there.
Oh, that's good. It's amazing how much like the manual can boost the price of something. It's like, yeah, the cart and the manual, so it's another $75. Like that is one expensive 10 pages of paper.
Apparently, paper can ages very, very well. So the longer it's been around in that paper form, the more it's worth.
Oh yeah, because most kids just rip the cartridge out of the box, threw everything away, and pop the cartridge in the system, which you can't blame them. I mean, it was like old school comic book collecting. Nobody knew they were going to be worth anything.
Yep.
They just wanted to enjoy them while they had them, and that was it. And now that 20 years down the line, they're worth hundreds of dollars. Well, I don't think they are, but I mean, they're valuable pieces of gaming, and people just were kicking themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's because at the time all you had was that moment. You weren't thinking 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, hey, this could be really worth something. It's all part of play.
Exactly. Funny
like
story.
My copy of Earthbound.
Hate you so much. If I want to buy a copy of that, the cheapest is a store called Vidiots near my house that $180 or something for it. And I want it. But anyway, funny little story is I live in a pretty close neighborhood. All the houses are not too far apart from each other. And about a street over there's this family that I used to hang out with, and I went to the garage sale one time, and the mother comes out and she goes, "Oh, you have to help me. I just accidentally sold my son's copy of Mario All-Stars for Super Nintendo, and if he comes back and I don't have another copy, he's going to be upset."
Oh.
And I was like, and this is back when like you really couldn't go into a Funko Land or a GameStop to pick that game up,
Yeah.
Like eBay was just coming into its own, and so you would pay quite a bit of money. And I said, funny story, a friend of mine actually said he has an extra copy of that. Let me give him a call. So I call him up, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I just threw it out. Let me go get it out of the garbage."
As in quite literally just throwing it in the garbage.
I'm pretty sure he was pulling my leg, because he knows how I would react to something like that. "Why would you throw that out? Give it to me. I'll take care of it."
I will love it and hug it and call it George.
So the funny thing is, she put it back in his game room like later that day when when my friend gave it to me. So I think she bought it off him for like $15, which is still a pretty fair price.
Yeah.
And she put it back in the game room, and I don't think he ever found out. According to what she said, when she was getting ready for garage sale, she just had like this box full of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, I guess the game was in the box, and somebody bought it because she just put it outside with a note on it. I always thought that was funny. But yeah, no, I generally try to keep my games in pretty good condition because I don't really want to have to buy them again and again.
Yeah, disc stuff is what I generally take really, really good care of.
I am a stickler for like CDs and DVDs. Like, it goes back in the case when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even a lot of my movies and stuff, just real big. It's annoying if I see them just lying around. Like, no, it goes back in the case, you idiots.
And you're saying that, and I'm looking at a DVD. I think this is Knights of the Old Republic sitting on my desk. Granted, the side that it's actually supposed to read is face up, so it's not like I'm having it scraping against the desk. But you're saying that, it's like, wow, I'm feeling worse and worse and worse.
Yep, that's what this podcast is all about, making you feel like a pile of shit.
Because I have a CD right there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel such shame. Such shame.
All right, well, welcome to the podcast. Hopefully this will be fun for you. But, so as always, we're going to go on to our next segment, which is checking out what is new on oceanabees.com, and we have a couple of things, not too many. 3 new videos and 2 new blogs. We'll start at the videos and work our way from the bottom. The first video is The Inspector Reviews Stupid Things at the Request of His Fans, Episode 1, Blue Eyes.
I'm sorry. I just cannot not laugh when I hear that.
Yeah.
It is just hilarious.
He apparently takes 5 minutes and 32 seconds in reviewing Blue Eyes.
That is one of his better videos, I have to say. I mean, it's just funny. I don't know how he does his facial expressions so well, but I had never heard of the thing. I don't know where he found it. I guess one of his fans suggested he take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And but my God, that was just great. I highly recommend. I mean, I know I say that every single time we do this. Go check out the videos because they're great. But I'm not kidding you with this one. This is fantastic. The next video is The Inspector Does the Movies, Episode 1, The Room, where he recites famous scenes from various movies, in this case, The Room.
I know The Room is awesomely bad, but at least in the eyes of most people, I just think it's bad, so I didn't even find any humor in it, just simply because I didn't care for The Room, even as a MST3K style. I just didn't care.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. It's like that movie, what was it, Birdemic Shock and Terror, where a lot of people said that was the worst movie ever, and I watched it because, as Phoenix will know, I have a lot of crap movies.
you were debating if you should buy it on Blu-ray or not.
I was debating. Well, it wasn't that much money, and I was like, well, if it's a bad movie and it's as bad as everyone says, it's got to be entertaining as hell. Come to find out, not really.
Just kind of boring and dull and boring.
For every moment of just like being, it's so incompetently put together, that film, that you can't help but feel bad for everyone involved. I understand making an independent movie and you don't have a lot of money or a lot of time or a lot of, the best cameras, that kind of thing, but my God. The man who made that movie got almost everything wrong in every single scene. But at some point in the film, it just starts to grate on you. I actually went to Rift Tracks showing of that at a
Okay.
local theater. Which, if you don't know what Rift Tracks is,
Oh, I know what Rift Tracks is. It's the same guys who did MST3K.
yeah. So my theater was showing a live stream of that movie as Rift by them, and so I headed off there, and yeah, even with that, it was kind of hard to sit through. So, and it's not anything against the MST3K guys. It's simply,
They can only do so much.
yeah. I mean, they're trying.
It's
to
just a bad movie.
They're trying to
Yeah.
polish an absolute turd, and it's just not working. But anyway, so yeah, do check that out. Pretty fun, and actually, it's going to lead into another video he's got coming down the pipeline that I find to be quite surprising that he's even attempting to do. But anyway, the newest video is also by the Inspector. He's very busy.
Has to keep up with you.
I mean,
Yeah, my face is all over the front page, so he feels neglected. Anyway, so his last video is Let's Inspect Dead Island Part 1, where he plays through Dead Island. If you have any interest in that, check it out. I personally don't really care for Let's Plays or Dead Island.
And I'll just say this, he's also kind of doing a call out to any of his fans to, if you own Dead Island, he would be willing to play with you.
Oh, I'd play it with him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd play with him if I had Dead Island, but I know Dead Island is crap.
I love Dead Island.
It's not that bad. It's kind of mediocre, and that's really what was disappointing. The thing about the game that bothered me the most was they focused completely on melee combat. Well, I won't say completely, but most of the time.
Pretty much melee combat.
But the melee doesn't do anything else but click mouse button to hit zombie. There's no like combo system or preparing strikes or anything like that.
Or any way to string stuff together. You know what would have been good? And I know it's
Xenoclash.
entirely possible. What?
Xenoclash.
Well, yeah, that too. But give Dead Island a Arkham Asylum style fighting system just with the weapons, and that would have solved a lot of the problems.
Yeah, I think that was my main complaint, was that just the combat, which is 100% of the game, just beating up zombies and moving through missions, just started to become monotonous.
With as much as I like the game, yeah, I do agree with you on that, and the same kind of goes for the firearms. They're just completely underpowered compared to the melee weapons.
Oh yeah, I only ever used them to take out the heavier guys, and even
Oh,
then I
no.
still had to finish them off with a stick or something.
They're completely useless against the zombies. The only thing that the guns are useful against are the actual human enemies, and with that you can only get them in a one-shot kill with a headshot, and that's really as useful as the guns are in the game.
Which sucks because one of the characters is completely focused around ranged weapons.
Is around guns, yes.
And she's completely useless. To be fair, I did play through the entire game with Phoenix in co-op, so it's not like I didn't give it its fair shake. I did attempt to enjoy it. It just fell flat in way too many areas. Also, I have to wonder how many people actually lived on that island, because I think I killed about the population of 3 large cities by the time I was done, and there were still more zombies on the island. Where are they coming from exactly? How many people were vacationing in Hawaii at the time? Or wherever that's supposed to be set at.
Yeah, what was it, Banoi or whatever it is?
Or yeah, Banoi. It was just so like, I don't know, you beat up one zombie and then there's another zombie and there's another zombie. At least in an RPG, turn-based or even real-time strategy RPG, they try to spice it up a little bit. And Dead Island had like customizable weapons and you could make new ones, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. I'm gonna probably pick up the sequel on Steam when it's like super, super cheap, just to see what they've improved. Also noting that, of course, when I bought it on PC the day of release, it was an absolute mess of a game. They needed to patch the hell out of it.
No, they released the dev build for retail.
Oh yeah, it was the Xbox 360 dev build on PC, and you could actually hit, I think it was the Y key, and break the game, and then you could just go flying through walls and stuff.
Yep, it'd turn on no clip and flying, and you can just go all around the island.
Which kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, it's a good idea for a game, but I also think I was kind of burned out on the whole zombie thing at the time I was playing it too, so whatever. It's a decent concept. I just don't think I think if it was given to a better developer,
Yes, I definitely have to agree with you on that.
it could have been something special, but they gave it to not Deep Silver because they published it, but I forget who developed it.
Techland.
Techland, thank you. And I think they're just mediocre at best at doing that. I mean, it's their best game I've seen them release, because I think the last one was like Call of Juarez and that whole series, which was also kind of a mess. So at least they're improving. But still, it's okay. If you find it for like $10 on Steam, I'd say pick it up. It's, there is fun to be had. Anyway, back to the topic. So we're going to move on to the blog section. We have 2 blogs, both of which were written by myself, because my ego needs to fill the size of Kansas.
I was thinking Nebraska, but that's just me.
Well, I'm more a fan of Kansas. So there.
Okay. Well, good for you. You can have Kansas.
Nah, you can have it. I'll take Florida. It's warmer down there now.
Yeah, you can have Florida just fine.
I don't feel like rebuilding my house every year, so go ahead and take it.
No, I don't want to live down there. I just want to take it. I want to airlift it away from the continent. Just go.
Yep, and then you'll. But you know what? Then you'll have to deal with the Wasty box. Sorry, it's a whole nother thing. I probably shouldn't even bring it up.
Then let's squash this right now. Moving on. So 2 new blogs. The first one is my review of the Evil Dead remake, and the last one is my review of Iron Man 3. So if you guys are interested in my thoughts of either of those films, go check them out. I'll just say right now, I highly recommend Iron Man 3. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. That was a ton of fun at the theater.
That's good.
Yeah. So, probably the best Iron Man movie in the trilogy. Actually, I kind of prefer the first one, but that's only because they were setting everything up, and I kind of like origin stories.
So long as you didn't like Green Lantern, because that was an origin story.
No. If you scroll back through my blog, you will see my.
You're right. I was just remembering that, and I was like, oh wait, he already did, and he toured a new one.
I hated that movie. But funny thing is, I went with my friend Alex, and he is a huge DC comic fan and a huge Green Lantern fan. So we went to the midnight release of this thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. And as we're walking out, I'm going like, I am in shock as to how bad that film was. And he, on the other hand, is just like, that was great.
I'm a fan of Green Lantern, and that was shit.
Yes, and I was like, okay, well, yeah.
That was the thing.
Actually, I think I did that as a video review on my YouTube channel, that particular one.
Mm-hmm.
Where it wasn't until the next day that we decided to sit down and record our thoughts. It was, and you could see him like slowly start to come to the realization that the movie's garbage. And it's just hilarious. The second time I've liked the look on his face. The other time was when we went to Wendy's and he found out they didn't sell Pepsi products. Just
apparently Pepsi products equals his reaction to GL being crap.
we were hanging out super late at night, and he decided we were going to go out and get some stuff at Wendy's to eat. So we pull into the drive-thru, and he goes, and I ordered my thing with like a lemonade because it was late and I didn't want all the caffeine. And he goes, all right, well, I'll have a number whatever with a Mountain Dew. We sell Coke. And just, he immediately spun around, looked me in the eye, and just his look of sheer confusion, anger, frustration.
As if he was judging you. You lied to me.
And so he turns back and goes, Get a mellow yellow. You like mellow yellow. Oh, yeah, do you have mellow yellow? No. He got a Dr. Pepper. We went home, and I had to listen to him complain for like a half hour as to why they didn't have Mountain Dew. And now we can never go back to Wendy's when we're hanging out because they don't have Pepsi products. Oh, man. Anyway, so that's everything that's new on oceanofbees.com. So we're going to move on to our news segment, which is... I think you sent me the link here at some point, Phoenix? Yes.
There's one thing that we can talk about. There's also the Xbox Illuma Room, if you care to talk about that as well.
Oh, yeah, I need to find a thing for that. But yes, go ahead and talk about the link that you sent me.
Alright, there's a game that was recently released called Game Dev Tycoon, which, as with all the other Tycoon games, you basically play the role of whatever it is that you're doing, that game being a game development company. And I think in the article they said that out of the like 3,200 people who bought the game, here we go. After a day on sale, 3,104 of the 3,318 copies being played were pirated. I don't know how they tracked that, but I guess they did. So basically what they did is they released their own cracked version of the game onto like the torrenting sites like the Pirate Bay and whatever, but it has an extra little bit of code in it. And that little bit of code basically makes it to where once you reach the PS2 and Xbox era of gaming, all of a sudden you get this sales report saying your games are being highly pirated and you're losing a lot of money, which this thus leads to your company going bankrupt due to piracy. And just the hilarious thing about it is that they have a screenshot of a post that someone posted on here where the topic is, I can't progress further, help. And he's basically asking why are my games being pirated, and is there any way that I can research DRM to prevent it? And I'm just sitting here going, you pirated the game. If you want to fix that, buy it. And
which I definitely have to say is a much clever way of dealing with it than most DRM schemes, but sorry, beside the point.
I just find this utterly hilarious. I mean, this is the same way with the way the developers for Alan Wake dealt with piracy. Because if you pirated Alan Wake, this is before I think a later released crack fixed it, but the main character Alan Wake would walk around with an eye patch, a pirate eye patch, to indicate that you've pirated the game. And I just find these other ways to combat piracy just hilarious.
Now, didn't they? I remember something like on the copies of Earthbound, if you like tried to play a copy of Earthbound, they would have something like that.
Yep, the same thing with Earthbound, one of my favorite games of all time. I always say that. But if before emulators got better, if you played a ROM version of Earthbound, it would basically go into super hard mode, where there would be at least, I don't know, like 20 enemy spawns on screen at one time, all of them way over leveled to where you probably couldn't beat them. And even if you made it all the way to the last boss, an error would happen during that fight, which basically would delete your save file. So yeah, you just don't win.
It had something to do with, like, it checked the amount of available RAM, and if it didn't match what Super Nintendo was supposed to have, it basically knew it was pirated, because the main problem was playing copies off of systems that would basically copy the game data to a floppy disk.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the way they got around that, is if it checked the system and the system had more RAM than it was supposed to, it would play the pirated code. Or I should say the pirate code that, the DRM code, I guess, or something. I don't know what you call it.
Yes.
But it would play the game more difficult. Okay. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to kind of bite the whole problem in the ass. Is, oh, you want to pirate a game? Okay, but you can only get so far. Although with most things like this, I'm sure somebody will crack it eventually.
And then, well, actually they can't. Because they released that version.
Right.
So the pirators would basically have to rewrite the code in the game, which I know they probably could, but they would have to find it first, which would take a while. But since this is a working copy, it was spread like wildfire.
Right.
And no one knows which one's a legitimate copy now.
Just dilute the whole supply.
And continuing reading through this article, another user said, "Why are there so many people with that pirate? It ruins me. Not fair." It's exactly what you're doing. So, buy the game. I'm gonna buy it just on that. I'm generally not a fan of tycoon games just because I find them, mediocre. But I actually want to buy the game just because of that, because I just find that awesome.
It is certainly creative. I haven't really heard of many other things that went that route. Earthbound I brought up, of course, but I haven't heard of many others like that. Pretty ingenious, I must say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, the other thing we want to talk about is the Xbox Illuma Room. I found an article that I kind of like. Now, this was a technology, or a feature, I guess, that was going to be supposedly included in the next Xbox, the Xbox 720, or the next box, or
whatever it's called.
Whatever the hell they want to call it. We'll know in a couple of days. Where essentially it would project the rest of the game you're not seeing on your TV screen on the wall and floor and ceiling of the room you're in, or something like that.
And the furniture that it's around. I'll just say the ingenious thing about it is that it actually detects, what would be considered furniture and what would be the wall, and then it properly, projects the image to where there's no weird stretching or anything that would just look off, which, I just find that pretty ingenious. But it's just the fact that it's projecting this huge thing across a wall that I find kind of distracting if I would be playing a game.
Yeah, okay. This article I found, which is written by Mike Williams of Game Industry International, or GameIndustry.biz, states that it is an extension of the Xbox 360 and Kinect combination and allows visuals to be projected behind the television. The demonstration at CES 2013 was said to be only proof of concept, a statement backed up today by Microsoft researcher, I can't say his name, HRVOJE. It's too many vowels and not enough actual letters. Benko. Okay, Mr. Benko. Anyway, stating that they're basically just showing it off because they can? I don't know. But it was rumored for a while that was going to be included in the original, or in the next Xbox. I guess now it's kind of up in the air. I'm sure it'll come down the pipeline eventually, but as of right now, it's just proof of concept. Still, I can't see any reason for this to exist.
And it's moments like this that I have to say I'm really glad that I'm pretty much a PC-only gamer at this point, because while there are definitely gimmicks for PC, like the MMO mouse, it's nowhere near the size and scale of this kind of garbage.
I just cannot imagine this being any more immersive. Like, it would annoy the hell out of me.
It's almost like the what is it, the Oculus Rift?
Oh, that 3D headset they showed off.
Yeah.
Not Microsoft. I forget who showed it off, but some company at CES.
Virtuix.
Okay. Yeah, and it's supposed to emulate like a mouse or something.
Well, it's a omnidirectional treadmill that you can run along, and it will move your character, and the headset will, move based on, wherever you're looking within the game.
Right.
And I don't need that. I don't need a huge cumbersome machine to play my game. I like my mouse and keyboard.
When will game companies learn? All they have to do is make good games.
Yeah.
I mean, making the graphics cards better and the processors faster and all that is great. It's fantastic. But when the tech is just so ridiculous, I don't see a need for it or a reason for it. I guess it's more of a niche product, both the Illumaroom and the Oculus, but I don't know. I don't ever see any of those features really going mainstream. I don't really see people going, oh man, you know what I need when I'm playing my Halo game or my Call of Duty is more gray and brown all over the walls. Everywhere.
Thanks for that mental image, because now I'm thinking of something a very different gray and brown.
Get your head out of the gutter. No, but seriously, what would be the purpose of this thing, really? Oh, it's supposed to make the games more immersive, they say, but I doubt that's really the case.
I'm sorry, until they make a fully functioning holodeck, this kind of garbage is not immersive. And frankly, when it comes to games, I go to play games for the fantasy aspect of it. I don't want to play games of stuff that I could do. It's why I hate the game license stuff. It's why I hate a lot of this stuff. It's like where it's just copy and paste. It really doesn't make any sense. And it's like, oh, we want this to be more immersive. You want it to be more immersive? Go outside and kick a ball around.
That's the same reason I don't really see the point of playing sports games, or at least simulation sports games. It's like, if I want to play football, I'll go grab a couple friends and play football.
Yeah, and I would think at this point that would be the kind of stuff that they would want to push this for, because how are you going to have that project, say, the obelisk out of a game like Mass Effect, or some of the more out there concepts in gaming? Can you imagine them trying to do that with something out of Half-Life 2?
Oh, those like Spider Walker things, or what
yes.
they're called?
Yeah, the Striders.
That would be so cool.
That would be cool, but it would... Trying to use your whole room for that, I really doubt it's going to be really worth it.
Mentioning that's also something that that should be considered with this, is that you're going to need quite a lot of space to get this to work.
Microsoft seems to think that everybody lives in a house with like 200 square feet of nothing. Like the Kinect, you have to stand so far away from the TV in an area so that it can detect you. Now this thing's got to project on the wall in a certain, I don't know the dimensions, but it's got to project a portion of the game on the wall behind you. So you basically have to live in a house with no furniture, is what they're saying. Like, in order to play our game on our system, you need to live in a house with absolutely nothing to sit on. It just seems ridiculous. It's like, that's one reason I always preferred like the Wiimote to the Kinect, or the PlayStation Move to the Kinect, because like at least you could sit down and play your game, or at least stand up in a pretty small area without hurting yourself. Whereas the Kinect, it's like, in order to play multiplayer, you gotta, okay, you stand here, now you stand here, okay, a little farther back, so the camera can see you. Okay, alright, we're good.
Okay, it's not detecting you because you're wearing black. You gotta change your shirt.
Yeah. and then of course, it doesn't detect jack or shit in the room, because both of them are apparently hiding behind something. So, you move your hand, and it doesn't know you moved your hand until 3 seconds after you moved your hand, and there's this family that lives next door who has a son who's, probably no more than 10 years old, and he was talking to me about how much he liked his friend's Connect, and I was just not at all interested in the thing. If there were games, if there was a couple games out for it that made it worth buying, I might consider it, and I might pick it up. But there isn't.
Well, if you get the 720, you're just going to have it.
Oh, yeah, let's not even talk about that. I don't know. I just feel like it's all... What's the word? It's all for show. Like, what I want to see Microsoft actually do is make some games that are...
It's for the dog and pony show.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I actually want to see them make a console that's for games.
Instead of something that's supposed to replace your cable box?
Yeah, instead of all this social media crap and all this whole you can watch TV shows and whatnot on here, I want something that can play games.
Now, with the other stuff, I can definitely understand why that's the case. I mean, our generation is starting to grow up, and we want some things that can do a few more things with the console. So I can get why you can connect into these things. Don't make that the focus. Games are the focus.
Yeah, it's like I bought a PlayStation 3 to be able to stream Netflix without having to pay for Xbox Live. I was basically using it as a streaming box, but I don't care anymore because it's like, look at all the games it has. And now I just don't use it for Netflix like I was thinking I would. Or at least I don't use it near as much. I use it mostly to play actual games. When the system's not updating, or the system's not requesting an update for a game that takes for fucking ever to install.
Or it's not installing a game.
Yeah. Or anytime it's... I swear, one day... No. I'll get into this when I'm getting into games we've been playing, but it just reminds me of something that happened in the last couple days that just pissed me off. Anyway, so yeah, I just don't... I want to see games. I know this isn't directly tied to the 720, because like they said, it's just proof of concept, but I really don't see where this is going to make games better. I could see the Kinect. I could understand why they thought that would work. But there's no games out there to back that up.
Fruit Ninja's fun.
Yeah,
that's about the only working one.
I can't play that on my phone. I think the best game they said they had is like Gunslinger, which they give away when you buy the Kinect. So it's like, oh, all right. I don't know. I know the Wii got a little gimmicky with the whole waggle and stuff like that, but at least the games that came out, the ones that were worth buying, were fun and playable.
And plus, one thing that a lot of these companies tend to forget was the Wii was priced how much cheaper than the rest of these systems?
Oh yeah, I remember you could buy an Xbox 360 and a Wii for the same price as a PS3.
Mm-hmm.
At one point. They actually called it the Wii 60. Because they go, which do you own, the PS3 or the Wii 60? That was a thing.
It's a thing I don't remember.
I didn't buy a PS3 for the longest time because it was really, really expensive. And I had an Xbox that played the majority of games that I wanted to play anyway, so I didn't bother. Yeah, so like I said, I don't really see this helping games in any way. I guess it's a neat little feature, but I hope it's not like necessary. Like, oh, you have to play with this on because we need to use your wall to broadcast ads about NFL stuff we can sell you.
Oh, right, advertisements. I completely did not consider that.
Yeah, imagine if while you're playing your game, instead of broadcasting the game around your TV on your wall, they're broadcasting ads for shit. Like you're playing a driving game, so they're broadcasting like oh, buy Michelin tires and Axe body spray, and I don't know how that would correlate, but just like random stuff, like Ford advertisements for their trucks while you're trying to play a game, or you're playing, I don't know, an RPG, and all of a sudden they're like, "Are you thirsty? You've been playing for 6 hours. Have a Pepsi." That's one thing that when the 360 got its dashboard update last, it really upset me because they took all of the little, I don't know how to describe it, but all the little like tiles, and more than half of them are just ads for stuff, and then the actual tabs that go to your games are small and kind of in the corner.
Well, and therein kind of goes back to my whole problem with it. They're trying to sell you the whole system rather than what it's designed for, which is games. It's like, oh, you can do all this stuff with your Xbox too. See, you can stream and you can go online. That's what you want it for, right? No.
It's not. That's one thing I think Sony really hit on the head with the PS4 announcement. I know that they kind of dropped the ball by not actually showing the PlayStation 4 or really much of anything. But they did stand up there and they go, here's the list of people making games. Here's what you can expect. Here's a couple of trailers. Like, they really didn't focus too much on the whole streaming aspect. They're like, yes, you can stream on it. And now here's footage of Killzone.
Because PlayStation always needs a Killzone.
I love Killzone. So, yes, bring them on.
Well, no, it is a fun game for what little I have played of it. It's fun.
Which one?
The PS2.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've known that PS3 got one, and then now PS4.
Yeah, PS3 got 2, Killzone 2 and 3. PSP got 1 as like a top-down strategy thing. I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. It was fun, though. And then the Vita's getting one called Killzone Mercenary. Yeah, I don't know. If I had to pick between Halo and Killzone, I'd probably pick Killzone over Halo, just because I find the single player to be a little bit more expansive.
And a lot of Halo fans are bringing their torches and pitchforks.
Hey, I love Halo. Don't get me wrong. I have all the Halo games, and I love them to death. But I think Killzone just offers a bit more that I like. It's more... I don't want to say strategic.
It's not about what you like, it's what's better.
Well, like...
You know, you say that, I'm going to be over here with Half-Life. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I honestly do not care about Halo. I couldn't care less. I'm just saying.
How long until Half-Life 3?
There's a 3?
Don't know.
I rest my case. Yeah, but anyway, I forgot where we were going back on about
yes,
this.
It was about Halo, and my whole thought about Halo anyway was it's
these systems are getting away from actually being game systems and trying to do 1,000 other things that they weren't necessarily designed to do. I mean, I know they're all computers. Essentially, you know, they're all set-top boxes that can do stuff, but, you know, I don't really care to watch stuff on my systems. It's nice. It's nice that it's an added feature, but when it's the one thing that the company pushes, I kind of have an issue with that. It's kind of like when Microsoft announced the Surface, like, thing we were talking about, where you could link a tablet to the Xbox, and like, oh, well, if you're watching, Game of Thrones, you can bring up a map of the whole land of the Game of Thrones show and see where everybody is, and then you can like look up information about a movie while you're playing. Look, I want to play a game. Can I just play my game, or what?
No, that's too simple. You can't do that.
Imagine if you're actually like playing Madden, and you could make calls on your tablet about which way you wanted the guy to run and where you wanted him to throw to, or whatever. Oh, okay. How about games? You got those? I don't know.
No, you precisely know. That's why we're talking about it.
It's just like, you know, I grew up. I guess it's just partially personal preference. It's like I grew up in an era when a game system was a game system and played games.
Mm-hmm. You can maybe use it for something like watching a movie or anything like that, but that wasn't the primary use of it.
Yeah, like, I remember it blew my mind when my sister's PlayStation played a CD. Like, that wasn't a game CD, just like an audio CD. I was like, oh, it can play music too? Oh, that's neat. Hey,
Don't forget the terrible idea of GBA video.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, they started like cramming like Cartoon Network stuff on these Game Boy cartridges, trying to play them on the Game Boy Advance, and the compression just looked terrible. I mean, you could do better on dial-up with like a real player. It was really bad, and it only held like a half hour or something, or like 45 minutes.
I think it was like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It could play.
Yeah,
and that was it.
So it was like 40 to 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful. Like, now it's better because the 3DS can play video pretty well, and the PlayStation Vita, and you got all the smartphones and whatever, they can do that. But man, even when it was like cool that your Game Boy Advance could play it, I still didn't want my Game Boy Advance playing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. When I buy a system, I don't want to watch Netflix on it necessarily. I want to play some games, which will segue directly into our next segment, which is games we've been playing. So let's talk about what games we've actually
I just want to mention one little short thing.
Mm-hmm.
I came across something for just the whole Android and iOS market thing, where basically, I forget who's working on it, but they're re-releasing Carmageddon for Android and iOS on May 10th.
Wow, that brings back memories.
Yes. They're re-releasing it out to the market, and it's going to be free for that first day. So if you have an Android, whatever, grab it, because it's free. So go for it.
Hey, if I hadn't Ouya, I would get that.
Yeah, actually, Phoenix and I just both picked up a Google Nexus 7 tablet. And
oh, look at you two being nice and fancy.
Yes. Well, when you get them at the price we got them at, it was a no-brainer. Which I must say, this isn't going to be like a whole rant on tablets or anything. It's a pretty nice little thing. And it does a lot of stuff that I need it to do without having my laptop on, or if my laptop is being used to render video or anything else, intensive like that, I can use the tablet to
go online, check a thing real quick, maybe read a book.
Yeah, I used it just yesterday to look up a walkthrough because I was just sitting playing on my Xbox and I couldn't get past a particular part in a game, so I took out my tablet, I looked up the review or the walkthrough, and off I went. So it's actually quite a little handy thing to have. So yeah, I haven't gamed. I don't have many games for it yet, but looking forward to getting into more of that. So look forward to Tablet Talk, a new segment on our podcast where we talk about our tablets. How much we like our tablets.
No.
We'll do like a whole round robin talk show where we'll all sit around a table and we'll just, like balk like chickens the whole time, like
tablet.
The Tegra 3 processor.
Tablet.
Oh man. No, but seriously, it is a really nice tablet, and even though it lacks a rear-facing camera, which kind of annoys me, for the price, it's damn good. And I actually use it to watch Netflix quite frequently when I'm just like laying in bed and not doing anything, and I want to watch like a TV show or something.
So yeah,
it's like having a computer without the keyboard. And it's not running Windows 8, which makes me happy.
Oh, Windows 8. You try so hard to fail.
Speaking of news, did you hear Microsoft announced that Windows Blue, which is going to be like 8.1, will allow you to have 2 applications open at the same time?
What a brilliant idea!
I know.
I have 4 right now.
I have 6 different programs running right now in different windows.
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and in my browser, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different tabs.
Oh, but you only need one. You only need one at a time. Why would you ever want to have more than one thing open at a time? That's just silly. All right. Anyway, let's not deviate into that whole mess. So we will get So Carmageddon free for Android on the 10th of May. So do pick it up. I definitely plan on it because it's free. You can't argue with free.
No excuse.
There's no excuse to complain about something that's free. All right, so we'll get into games we've been playing. And Cheapy, why don't you go ahead and start since you are guest of honor?
Why, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and just go get a soda. I'll be right.
Well, there's been 3 that I've really been cycling through. The first one is Star Wars: The Old Republic. It is the first MMO that I've actually put money down on, and I have to say it's actually money really well spent. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the
MMO.
MMO.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, do you run that? Now, I know you're kind of a Linux fan. Do you run that on Linux?
No, and that's actually part of the reason why I haven't been able to do videos. I bought some new gear for my computer, and it was like, oh, wait, I probably should check to see if this works in Linux, and none of it does. So I need to find a way to get it to work. Although once I do that, I'm definitely getting Steam and loading as much stuff as I can on there because apparently a lot of the games run better on Linux than they do in Windows. So
yeah, they're really supporting Linux full force.
Which, by the way, Gabe Newell, thank you very much for that.
Well, you can actually thank Microsoft for that because they kind of turned towards Linux once they saw Windows 8.
I'm sorry, Microsoft was ripping off, not trying to help.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well...
What do you mean the desktop mode is an app?
Yes, well, anyway, that's the big one that I'm playing, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. The second one, and it's a game that normally I would not like because I did talk about it earlier, about a type of realistic game that I don't really care about, but I've been playing a lot of Bad Company 2, which is a side of the Bad Company series, which has a lot of the, big guns, explosions, brown, but it has a decent amount of personality to it, and I have to say I like my shooters to have some personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm sorry, I look at Battlefield 3 and I look at the Call of Duty series, it's like, wow, can I have my Rainbow Sprinkle Bad Company game again? And even then, it'll have those moments that really piss me off, like I would if I was playing Battlefield 3.
I bought Battlefield 3 Bad Company Bad Company 2, excuse me.
Yes.
This is what happens when you name your games all the same thing. And yeah, I really enjoyed it for what I played of it. I didn't play it through to completion, but what I did play I liked.
Yeah. And that's because it has a very fun feel to it. Even though it is, the standard realistic war shooter, it had some fun.
Yeah, the characters...
It's not super serious.
Precisely. And it does have its serious moments, but...
Yes. But
it's pretty fun.
But it knows when to have fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a blast playing that. I really should get back into that one.
Yeah. And the last one, and this is one that I feel so bad with, because as much as I love the Half-Life series, I'd never actually owned it up until a few months ago. And I actually finally got around to playing Half-Life 2 again. Oh my god. For having to deal with so many games that you have to pull up the map and they're so unintuitively designed. Half-Life 2 is so well made. It's not even funny.
That's another one I have to complete yet. I haven't actually gotten all the way through that.
Yeah. And one of the things that it dawned on me while playing through it again, it was like, wait, this game doesn't have a map. And yet I am able to get through this like nothing.
It doesn't even have a radar, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have a radar, doesn't have a map.
It's kind of like the anti-first-person shooter, where, like, yeah, you are in a first-person perspective, but
you're doing stuff like Ravenholm. You have the gravity gun, and it's all this wonderful, well-made, well-designed stuff.
Exactly. And no chest-high walls.
Yes. No chest-high walls and guys that are as wide as trucks.
They need to be wide as trucks to deflect bullets with their awesomeness. Because
well, their awesomeness and their gritty, grim, dark, grrr face. Don't forget that.
You know, I never would have imagined that. You remember the guy on the cover of, like, Unreal Tournament and Unreal Championship?
Mm-hmm.
That one guy with, like, the tiny head and the gigantic armor?
Mm-hmm.
I never imagined that would be every game. You know what I mean? Like,
yep, every game ever.
That was so unique to Unreal, that look, and now it's like Gears of War looks that way, Halo looks that way. Everybody's like a giant Space Marine gun-toting bald guy who,
yeah,
you know, growls and goes, "Roar, aliens."
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So yes, those have been the three that I've been really getting a lot of playtime out of.
Now, what exactly are you playing those all on? Are you playing those on your Linux computer, or?
Well, I dual boot. That means that on the same computer, I have two different things. I have a Windows partition and I have a Linux partition.
Oh, okay.
So it's all the same computer, and I
Right.
actually still get to play my games because most of them would require Windows to run, and I'll usually just record whatever I'm playing and then make a video of that. But when my video maker is based in Linux and is really nice to use, and like, oh, my mouse doesn't work in Linux, great.
Oh,
I am trying to find a fix, and most of the time I love Linux. I really do, but now it's like, oh, Linux, you scamp, why don't you work?
Why don't you just program it yourself?
Because I'm not a programmer.
Yeah, that's just kind of the thing that I'm a little bit turned off by Linux. I mean, everyone's like, you can go and do whatever you want because it's completely open source, and you can make and whatever and program however you want your operating system to be. But I'm like, I just want an operating system.
Yeah, which I will have to say,
want.
most of the time it's been working just fine with me. Just apparently it decided not to like my mouse or my camera.
I did set up a dual boot Linux thing on my old laptop just because it boots faster into Linux, and I just use it while I'm at school. I don't really use it personally, all the time. But yeah, it works for an operating system. I don't really have any complaints about it.
Because it's an operating system. It does what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not the OS we're complaining. That's the issue. It's the lack of support that's really the issue.
Yeah. Which is kind of a catch-22, but hopefully with Steam and a lot of the other big companies really starting to come around, hopefully that will change. Hopefully.
It also doesn't help that a lot of the Linux OSs are slightly different between each other, so
yeah,
you have like 12 different versions of Linux out there at one time. If they could just settle on like, okay, we're going to go with Linux, Ubuntu, or something like that.
A lot of them are just staying on Ubuntu. They're not really deviating to any other ones.
Right.
Because I know Valve is mostly sticking with Ubuntu.
Right. Well, that's cool. I have used Linux myself. I've never really got into it because I'm always more of a Windows guy, or I should say I'm always more of a Windows 7 or before guy. It's what I grew up with. It's what I'm comfortable using. So yeah, I've fiddled with Linux, but not to any large extent. Anyway, so moving on, I guess I'll go next? Or do you want to go next, Brett? Phoenix.
I can go next because I really don't have that many.
Okay, go ahead.
This is, I'll just say this is the final week of college, meaning I have project to turn in, so I haven't really been playing much. But what I have played is a free RPG Maker game called Off. And if anyone is using Tumblr, it kind of exploded on there. It's kind of a weird, quirky game, but, you know, our friend LOZF says it's just amazing, and I've played through, I hope, I don't know how long it is, but I'm at the third zone, and it's just kind of, well, to put it bluntly, off in terms of just everything about it. It's weird. It's just some of the visuals are just a little unsettling, but the thing is that it's different. It's really different in terms of a game, and that's what makes it really interesting. And I'm surprised that I am playing through it, just because it's just weird. But that's what I spent most of my time with. Other than that, I've been, whenever I had free time, I'd be just playing some little Android games I got on my tablet now, because I have a tablet, which, one of them is Into the Dead, which is a game where you're just basically running through, well, it's basically a see how far you can get type game, where you're avoiding zombies and you can unlock different weapons and stuff, and you can use the gyroscope if you want to, or there's different types of button inputs to just use it if you don't want to use that. But surprisingly, I have been playing that a lot more than I thought I would. And I don't know, it's fun for a little bit of a time waster, you know, get 2 runs in and, you know, go back to doing what I was working on. So, hey, that works for me. And then just recently, and by recently I mean a couple of hours ago, I found out that Choo Choo Rocket was on Android, so I bought that because it was $1, and I see myself playing that a lot. But
I love Choo Choo Rocket so much.
Yeah, and I would just say probably the last game that I'd say that I put a lot of time in since our last podcast was Earthbound. Ever since the announcement that Earthbound was coming to the Wii U store, it just kind of set me off to want to play that game again, and I've been playing that on and off, you know, ever since then. And I don't really have to say much more about it because you would I've already said about it in other podcasts. So yeah.
Earthbound, must play Earthbound.
Exactly.
I was actually shocked because I there was an inkling before they announced that it was going to come to the Wii U Virtual Console Shop or whatever. They were, you know, kind of teasing it a little bit, and I was kind of hoping that they'd put it out on 3DS as like an updated version with like maybe new visuals or something. I don't know, just something. I prefer to have physical copies of things rather than digital copies of things, so I was hoping for some kind of cart release or maybe something on the Wii U as like a disc game. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I mean, great. I can finally play it without having to borrow your game.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, but I was kind of hoping it would be released on the 3DS as well, just because it's a handheld and I can take it anywhere.
Yeah, it's like the DS version of Chrono Trigger. I love that game so much. Just be able to throw it in my DS or my 3DS and off I go playing Chrono Trigger.
Yep.
So much fun. Well, that's good. We probably should have talked about that in the news segment. Earthbound's coming to but it's good. Finally, something on the Wii U. Hey, I have every right to complain. Alright, so is that everything?
That's everything.
Cool. So I guess I'll get on to what I have been playing. And not too much. I've mainly been trying to focus on a couple of games rather than every game that I buy. I picked up. I'll start on the retro side of things, but on the Sega Genesis, I picked up a copy of a game called Guy Ares or Guy Ares, which is a scrolling shooter on the Sega Genesis, where essentially it plays a lot like Life Force or Gradius, kinda, except for one little thing. Instead of like picking up power-ups or picking up a cache to power up a weapon selector, you actually have this option, which I think they call the Taz system or something like that, that you actually throw at enemies and then it clips to them and absorbs their weapon. So the way that you actually get your power-ups is sucking them out of enemy ships. The big thing about the whole game, though, is it's punishingly difficult. Because when you launch the little orb, you are defenseless. You cannot fire. You can move, but you can't shoot back. So
that is interesting.
Yeah. So the whole point of the game is, obviously, it is one of the most difficult games I've ever played. I have not even gotten past level 2 yet. It's one of those where you really have to memorize enemy placements and where they're going to be and what weapons work best in what areas and so forth. But no, it's really, really fun.
And just something that I'd like to say in that, because, you made me play it, is that there are multiple pathways that you can go.
Oh, yeah.
On certain levels. On certain levels.
At least in level 1, I know there's a branching path at one point. It obviously leads to the same end boss, but it's interesting that they threw that in there. Another thing I want to mention about it is, and this is something the Sega Genesis is not normally known for, is the music in that game is incredible. It's a soundtrack worthy of being, remade for modern systems. It's absolutely incredible. I really wish... I think we'll end this podcast with the first level theme from that game, just because people have to hear it. It's quite something. Yeah, there was a local store near my house, Vidiots, which sells, games out of some guy's house. It's really kind of weird, but it's a great place. Anyway, they were having a sale where it was buy 2 get 1 free on all Genesis games, so that was great. The other game that I want to mention is an Xbox 360 game I picked up called El Shaddai. What is the subtitle of the thing? Ascension of the Metatron, which is a kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, myself included. It's essentially like I hate to use this term, but like a Devil May Cry third-person action game sort of thing, where you play as an angel tasked with going to find all of the fallen angels from heaven and destroy them so as not to bring about the apocalypse. The story doesn't really matter, and as a matter of fact, it's kind of thin. But what this game really, really gets right is the visuals. I'm always a gameplay over graphics person, but this game just blew me away. It's one of the best looking games I've ever seen. The visuals are crisp, really solid lines. It's all really colorful. Just approaching the tower, because you have to make your way into this tower where all the angels are, or fallen angels, whatever, to kill them. It reminded me of the movie Tron. Everything had this sheen to it. It's just incredible. I showed a bit of it to Phoenix one time when we were hanging out, just because...
And the visuals were the first thing I picked up on.
Yeah, I didn't even say anything. I just booted it up. I'm like, okay, check this game out. And you're like, this looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very pretty game. I'm not sure if it's on Steam or not. I know it's on 360. I know it's on PS3. So if you have either of those, I highly recommend checking it out. The gameplay is solid. It is a fun little hack and slash beat 'em up thing. but the visuals are really where the game excels. So, just had to drop that one in there. What else have I been playing? Not really much else that I can think of. Yeah. Oh no, one other thing I have to bring up. So I was playing something on my PlayStation Vita that I ordered off eBay and took forever to get over here. And it is a copy of the game Hatsune Miku Project Diva F, which is like a rhythm-based game released in Japan and Hong Kong and all those other countries that just looked like a blast to play.
And give you a reason to play your Vita.
Yes, and finally a fucking reason to pull that thing off the goddamn charger. Anyway, that's beside the point. The Vita's pretty dead. But, I mean, I'm sure there's good games out there, but my god, it's taking a while. But this is one of them that I really wanted to check out, and Sega, who publishes it, mentioned that they were bringing over the PS3 version, but not the Vita version, so I felt pretty safe in grabbing the Vita version. I have been absolutely addicted to this game. It is so much fun. It took me a while to understand the menu systems and everything else, because everything's in Japanese, and I don't read a lick of it. But it's pretty easy to navigate. You know, you mess up once and replay a song, and you're like, okay, now I know what that button does. Make a mental note of that. Yeah, no, it's great. If you're a fan of rhythm-based music games, it's definitely one to check out. I know Hatsune Miku is kind of a thing, I guess. I'm not really a fan of that, but it just looked like so much fun.
It's quite a large thing.
Yes, apparently it's a thing that is sweeping the nation I am not aware of. Cheapy, do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I think so. There's a really good friend of mine named Nicole who lives in North Carolina, and she's a collector of little dolls. The name of them is kind of escaping me, and I know that's one of the ones that she has.
Is the Hatsune Miku doll?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's this really weird phenomenon where apparently there's a company. I don't even know. Is it a company that makes the music?
It is a voice synthesizer.
Right.
That's all it is. It's a part of, I forget what it is. It's like it's a Sony brand voice synthesizer thing, where she is a voice that you can choose from to basically, write out, make her sing songs or whatever. And apparently she just got really, 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 really popular. Popular enough to where they have actual concerts of her projected on a screen and have her dancing around on stage.
And apparently those sell out from what I've...
Yes, yeah. Yes. And they sell out. And that's where she just came from, is just a voice synthesizer. That's it.
Well, I can definitely see why. The songs that are in the game, none of which I understand, again, are catchy, and they are a lot of fun to play. The gameplay is essentially like if you've ever played Guitaru Man.
Oh, wow, that's another blast from the blast right there. Wow. Next you'll say Parappa the Rapper, too.
Yeah, sorta. Basically, like...
Jeez.
Basically, on the Vita, you have the 4 face buttons, triangle, circle, and so forth, that as they fly on screen, you have to time them with where they're going to hit on screen. So, like, a little icon will show up somewhere on the screen, and then the note will come flying in some direction to hit that, and you got to time it right, There's also other things where you got to use the D-pad and the buttons together. So if there's like a right arrow, you have to hit right on the D-pad plus the circle button. And then there's stars that you have to literally swipe on the touchscreen with your finger in time with the music to hit them right. Yeah, it's really addictive. I haven't been this addicted to a rhythm game in a long time. I'm awful at them because I have no rhythm, but it still is a blast. And surprisingly enough, I paid $60 for it shipped from Hong Kong. Because I got apparently the Hong Kong version, which is the Japanese version, just in slightly different packaging for that region. But since the Vita's region free, I didn't have to do anything. You just throw the cartridge in and it works. So,
wow, actually, I didn't know that about the Vita.
yeah, it's completely region free, so it doesn't matter where you get games from; they'll just work. The only problem is it ties your account to what country you're from. So if you want to access the Japanese or any other PlayStation Network store in another country, you have to set up a separate account on a separate memory card, and then swap accounts.
And then I know the Vita has its own specialized memory that costs like 3 or 4 times what an SD card costs, which just makes that completely ridiculous.
Yes, it does. I bought the 16 gigabyte card for mine, and it cost me nothing because I got a gift card, but it's around $60.
Oh, a 16 gig for $60.
The 32 gig is about $100. You can usually get it for around $80 on Amazon or so, but yeah, it's unbelievably weird. The funny thing about the Vita is they really want you to like download stuff. They're really trying to push the whole digital thing on there, which would be fine if I had space. But every time I need space, I gotta go buy a special memory card. I really wish they would have just stuck with like the Memory Stick Pro Duos or the M2s that they make.
Or go to the one that every other company except for Apple, because they're assholes, use, which is SD and the variants thereof.
Yes. Yeah, like the 3DS just uses SD, so when I needed more room for my Virtual Console stuff on my 3DS, I just bought a 16 gig SD card for like $8.
Mm-hmm.
And it works fine. Like the Wii U and the PlayStation 3 use SD card. Well, some PS3s have an SD card slot. But, yeah, it's a pretty universal format, so I'm surprised that they went with some kind of specialty memory card. I'm sure it's just to try to offset the overall cost of the system by selling you an overpriced accessory. But the problem is that it's necessary to operate the system. Like, in order to save stuff, you have to have a card, which confuses me because the games come on cartridges or little, like, memory card things, but then you still need a memory card in the system to save information.
Yeah, that is Sony being extraordinarily stupid because they think they could recoup the loss of it, never mind the fact that it would be so much easier if they went to a Universal. But
well, like on the PlayStation Portable, they went with the Memory Stick Pro Duo, which is fine because at least that's a standard card. Like you can go out and find a pretty cheap SanDisk version of that, and it works perfectly fine. They're a little bit more expensive than SD, but I never really had a problem finding a bigger card when I needed one. Whereas with the Vita, it's like, okay, now I gotta find a PlayStation Vita memory card that's going to cost me an exorbitant amount of money. One way I kind of want to try doing that whole separate account thing. So there's a bundle that's at a local store that's around $15 for a carrying case and a whole bunch of other knickknacks, but it comes with a 4 gig memory card for, like I said, only $15. And so I'm thinking about maybe picking that up and using that as a secondary card for the Japanese account to see what I can do. Anyway, the last thing I want to mention about the Hatsune Miku game, there's actually an AR card or something that comes with the game.
AR card?
Yeah. You ever play with the AR cards before?
I might have, and I could just be completely forgetting about it.
It's essentially like a special card or a special that has some sort of design on it that when you point the system at it, something pops up from the card on the screen.
Oh, yes. Okay. You're right.
Yeah, the 3DS really pushed that when it first came out and then completely forgot about it.
Because it's a gimmick.
I know,
but who would want to do it as for a gimmick? Oh, wait, Xbox 720.
Yeah, anyway, so it comes with an AR card of the Hatsune Miku character, and there's a special mode in the menu you go to where she can sing songs or something. Like, she pops up on the card and starts dancing and singing to whatever the song is that you picked.
Okay.
Which is, the only song I have is squiggly squiggly dash hyphen moonspeak blah blah blah. But it's a kind of an interesting little add-on. It's an interesting thing to include, because if the entire appeal of the character is the fact that she's a digital persona for a singing group or whatever, I don't know, a mascot for some sort of voice program, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cute. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Kind of weird, but fun. And it actually gave me a reason to play my goddamn Vita, so that's good.
Yep.
A note about region locking, though. The 3DS is region locked, which is a little disappointing given the fact that all DS systems, and Game Boy Advance systems for that matter, have been region free, and suddenly they decided to go against that. Which, okay, fine, whatever. But it's just kind of a little disappointing that they would go back on what they were doing. There must be a reason for it, but meanwhile, Sony doesn't give a crap, because the PSP and the PS Vita, both region free.
Okay.
So, if there are any games on the Vita you're interested in that you think you can play without having to actually understand them, go for it. And actually, surprisingly enough, there's a good number of PS3 games that are region free as well. And some Xbox games, from what I understand. Yeah, the only other thing I've been playing, and this will be the last thing I want to note, is Nintendo released Kirby's Adventure on the Wii U Virtual Console for 30 cents in celebration of Kirby being awesome. So I picked that up for 32 cents, downloaded that, and now I can play it on my Wii U, which actually gives me a reason to turn that thing on besides playing older Wii games. So there is that. I really like that system, and I'm not going to defend it, but I really do like it as a concept. It's just I'm waiting for something to come out that reminds me why I bought it.
I know that feeling. Luckily, I've avoided a lot of it, but I've seen it happen a few times, and there've been times where I was going to do that, where I was going to buy something. It's like, okay, wait, I should probably not do it yet, just to make sure I'm nice and responsible and adult-like, and apparently I made the right choice on that matter.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept that just is not gaining any traction. The 3DS had the same problem when it first came out, but they remedied that by just pumping out one game after another. They still fucked up Mario Tennis, but hey, you can't get them all right, I guess. That's about it, I think. Oh, wait, Phoenix, there's one more game we gotta talk about.
Okay.
What you and I played it.
Oh, Inversion.
Inversion! We finally beat that fucking piece of shit. Inversion is a game that I was kind of interested in because it's a third-person shooter, kind of like Gears of War, I guess, but I think it has a little bit more character than that. Actually, I'm positive it has more character than that. Where essentially the Earth gets invaded by aliens, and you and a black guy, there's a white guy and a black guy, and you go off to kill aliens and save your family and all that other crap.
Because those are the only two races that exist, right?
Right, exactly. So
video games.
But the big pull about the game is that you have this anti-gravity mechanic where you can float through the air and shoot like anti-gravity beams at people so they float off the ground, or like I don't know what it's called, but like a heavy gravity laser that will actually increase the gravity on an object, which adds an interesting dimension to the gameplay. And I was kind of really into it until we actually beat the game. And I don't know. Do you want me just to spoil the ending?
I don't care.
Okay, great.
I'm probably not going to play it.
It's not that big a deal because they spoil the ending within the first 5 minutes of the game.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that big a deal.
Right. Okay. So near the beginning of the game, you break out of alien prison, whatever, and you go back to your apartment to find that your family's been murdered, and your daughter is missing, essentially.
Okay.
So obviously the game is, let's go save my daughter. So the entire game, that's what's driving the main character, not the black guy. The black guy's like the cooperative partner guy.
Okay.
The white guy, whose name I can't remember, he's being driven the whole time about saving his daughter. So at the very, 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 very end of the game, after hours of slugging through this thing, which, by the way, I must admit the network code was shit on that game.
Yes.
Phoenix and I could sometimes just randomly disconnect. His character would just randomly run into a wall and not stop. It wouldn't keep track of where he was and where I was in the level very well sometimes. It would eventually fix itself. I don't know what was going on.
There are just other times where we just couldn't even connect to each other.
Yeah, there were times where we just could not get a game together going. But we did eventually play through it. And at the very, very end of the game, it's revealed that your partner guy, the black guy, actually walked into a room and found the body of the little girl and never told the white guy. So what ends up happening is the entire reason the game is being played could have been stopped with just
back at
one
the
little,
apartment.
yeah, back at the beginning of the game where he's like, "Oh, your daughter, the one you keep looking for, yeah, she's not actually alive anymore." Because the whole time he's like, they're risking their lives and doing ridiculous things to, hopefully save his daughter, and it's like, what do you mean this was never? And he never told him. He never said anything.
Maybe he just didn't want to hurt his feelings.
So he'd go through thousands of alien soldiers and risk his life for what exactly?
It honestly would have been better if he would have found out, because then it would have been a whole revenge thing.
Yeah, like, I would have bought it more as a revenge plot line than anything else. Where he's just so fucking pissed that he goes off and
goes on murder
him.
rampages.
Exactly. Like,
Yay, murder rampages in video games.
And then they could have dialogue like, "Are you sure we should do this?" And he goes, "Those fuckers killed my daughter. Of course we're gonna do this. Blow a building." Now, again, it is kind of an interesting game because there are times when you, like, have to run up the side of a building, so it changes the whole perspective. But that just doesn't happen often enough. There's sections of the game where you're forced into 0G, but the controls aren't necessarily well made for something like that.
How long did it take us on that last part?
Oh, I don't know. That was like 2 hours of just constant failure.
Of trying to get through one hallway.
One hallway.
To be fair,
Yes.
there were 2 gigantic security droids shooting lasers and missiles. But, but there's other really good ideas in there where you can use the anti-gravity weapon to, like, pick up lava, and there's just, like, a floating ball of lava you can throw, or a floating thing of gasoline that you can throw, and like, you can literally, like, pick up an enemy and just hurl them against a building. Like, it's a really, really good concept that, again, like Dead Island, is kind of marred in execution.
That seems to be a recurring theme of this podcast, isn't it? Good concepts that just can't seem to get their act together.
If I had to come up with titles, that's the one I would use. But it's made by a company called Saber Interactive.
Yeah.
Which is also worked on Time Shift for the Xbox and PC. And Time Shift is a game that I actually really, really like. I have it on 360, and I really enjoy it. It's essentially it's a first-person shooter where you play as a guy who's tasked with going through different periods in time to stop a guy who stole a special experimental suit. And you have time powers, so you can fast forward, rewind, and pause the world.
Interesting.
And you use that to solve various puzzles. My favorite thing to do is, actually, if you're getting shot, it has, like, regenerating health and stuff, but it actually makes sense because you have a shield on the suit and stuff. Where if you need to, like, run and hide, you can actually pause the game, run somewhere, and then unpause it. or run somewhere and wait for your meter to run out, because you have this meter that controls the powers. My other favorite thing to do is when you're just alone with another enemy, you just pause the game, run up and steal his gun.
Nice.
And then unpause the game, and the guy's like, "Hey, what the hell?" And then you just blast him in the face. So much fun. It's pretty generic, I guess, in terms of first-person shooters, because you do just shoot stuff and go from objective to objective. There's nothing. It's pretty linear. But
understandable.
But the powers are so much fun to play around with, and it's a really unique game. So I had high hopes for Inversion being from the same developer, but I think they... And again, there's a lot there to like, it's just not very well implemented. Or not as well implemented as I think it deserved to be. But then again, I only paid $2 for Inversion on Steam, so I'm pretty pleased with my purchase.
So you're pretty pleased, but it's a situation where it would have been worth it and then some.
Yeah, like that's something I like about Steam is you can buy a game really cheap, and then if you end up not liking it, you're not out $60, $40, $30, $20.
Mm-hmm.
Where on console, if you buy a game new and you end up not liking it, you're out quite a chunk of change. So yeah, like it's not a great game, but if you can find it for around $5, I'd say play it. It's got some really interesting ideas. It just is marred by kind of wonky controls and bad networking code. Which then again, your mileage may vary on the networking code issue because maybe your router handles things better than mine does or something like that. But no, it was fun. But the story was weak and the whatever. So, but definitely check out Time Shift. I highly recommend that game if you can find that, and it should be like less than $5 now if it's on Steam at all. Like I said, I have it on 360, so. But I highly recommend that if you're a fan of shooters, because it's a lot of fun. It got overshadowed because it came out around the same time as the game Singularity, and I think it came out around the same time as Halo 3. So it got buried in that whole mess, and not a lot of people play it. But actually, our friend Josh was the one who showed it to me. He actually picked it up at a GameStop and brought it over and was like, "You have to play this." And he's absolutely right. It's great. So, all right. Well, that's everything I wanted to bring up. Anything else anybody wants to talk about?
Nope, that's about it for me.
Great. Get the hell off my podcast.
Oh.
All right. Cool. Well, I guess if that's everything, we will wrap this up. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys had fun listening, if anyone's out there. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments you'd like to ask us, please leave them in the comment section below or in the oceanofbees.com forum in the corresponding post. I'd really like to get this segment going, so if you have anything to ask, please do. I'll even ask non-gaming questions, but I'll refer back to gaming as a reference point at some point, I'm sure. Alright. So as always, I'm your host, Marauder.
I'm Phoenix923.
And I am Cheapy.
He learns well. Alright. And thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys on the next bonus.